Imagine a world where all you see is darkness, a life with no colors. Could you still picture it beautiful? Would you rather give up, or would you go on facing life without seeing it?
In a small barangay called Hipusngo in BAYBAY City, Leyte, is a story of a blind man. He may be the usual blind man you see in the streets, but his life is something you have not seen yet. He serves as the light in the dark. He is known as Lolo Paeng. Lolo Paeng is not alone in the world of darkness. He's married to a blind like him, Lola Eleonor, a couple that is facing life together without the gift of sight. Their love story started when they first met at a massage training center for people with disabilities in Cebu.
Dito bitaw may ani niya magkaila-ila. Itong pag-eskwela na mo itong 1975. Daghan naman gud big na obserbahan dito sa Cebu day ba. Daghan man gud kaminyo ay mga uta na sila ba. Pero maayo man lang mga anak.
Pagkasala mo nga picture sa uray, pagkasala mo kato ngay. Kasala mo kato ngay bisa mong sa Cebu.
They are blessed with 3 children, though one died at 19 because of dengue, and 15 grandchildren. In poverty, left with 2 sons, none of which finished a degree. Now, one of their sons is in Manila seeking for a better life with 5 children. The other is living with them together with his wife and their 10 children. Imagine them raising a family that big without seeing anything.
Sana'y mapurpo sa mga pag-ati magbata kaya akong pag-umangkon sa Cebu. Tabangon man ko, panpuan sa kong bantay sa ilang mga anak. Panpuan sa gata, sa anak ba? Malimpyo ang bata, nadiligid mo huga-huga, pero may bahagan. Amo mo nang biyan-biyan ni ito nanay, amo lamang inon nga nay. Kana ba yagid sila doon ay mga sa nila?
Lumagan lang.
Oo, kay warba mi sa diri na mga warta mi. Manjog kamo. Sila diri mga bata.
They were not born blind. Before going blind, they already witnessed how beautiful the world is. Lolo Paeng lost his eyesight at the age of 3, while Lola Eleonor at 5, both because of measles.
Foremost, measles is a viral infection. It's actually manifested with skin rashes, fever, and there is this pathognomonic spot called Koplik spots, and it's found in the buccal mucosa. There is one form of measles, the so-called German measles. Okay, the German measles is rubella. Okay, the measles that we have is caused by rubiola. The complication is keratoconjunctivitis. So if you're able to treat keratoconjunctivitis without complications, then blindness is never in the picture. Generally, measles is self-limited, being a viral infection. It's not actually that severe, no? It's not actually that dreaded, you know? But depending on the immune status of the patient, let us say the very young and the very old, and those with heart diseases or diabetes or anybody with compromised immune system, they could be alarming complications. And one of those is keratoconjunctivitis, meaning it inflames or it produces an inflammatory process in the conjunctiva of the eyes. Okay, so keratoconjunctivitis per se will never give you blindness, although it's a common complication of measles, and that is why we administer vitamin A to children with measles to at least support the eyes. You know? But if keratoconjunctivitis complicates, let us say more and more bacterial infections set in, or secondary bacterial infection sets in, the possibility of blindness is there. It affects the entire process of organ formation. It affects almost every organ So that in the eyes, it causes mga glaucoma, microphthalmia, cataract formation, and that's glaucoma is enough to cause blindness. So probably you are referring to congenital rubella rather than measles per se, which is caused by rubiola. But if it is a congenital rubella syndrome, meaning the child was born blind already, the process occurred somewhere inside the mother's womb, and most especially it occurs in the first 3 months of pregnancy. So I don't know if blindness can still be reversed.
But it was harder for Lola Eleonor.
Ganon, Ginoo, napunta ko man dyan po, man lang Ginoo ko. Bawi ang nagyan Ginoo sa dayon. Anak ba, ingon mo dyan ko niyan to kay. Mura man dyan, ako dyan pa mga naman nga, murag lain dyan, ako lang ko tayo lahi. So, 5 na makamat mo naman ko dahil hayag, mga kolor, kamat mo naman dyan ko, kay 5 naman akong edad. Ni-action naman gani kong hikog na to sa amo, pagkamat mo na ako nga, ani ko. Nang gilit, bagi ko na ko sa pulso niya, ila kong badlong, sa ito nga pamahan, bunalan ko niya. Gano'n ko nung maghikog man ka nga, mahigay kayo, nabuhi ka. Oo, nabuhi ko, pero pating buhi.
As they grow older, their hope of seeing the world again faded out. The picture of a beautiful world where they live in is now just a memory. Despite his condition, he did not lose hope.
Tawag dito ko si Bo. Ako ikuha na ito nung masahe dito ko. Ako pakandoy ako bagay yawat ng mga maganda man sa ato.
He was once been a masseur, but it did not last long. Even though his children are now all grown up, their poverty is still more powerful than any means of living. And with a family to raise and not having any other options, he resorted to begging.
Masin, katulog ko mana. Bato na may ako mga kailan ng pare. Pare rin, mata na ako 100. Ay, sineo rin, mata 50, may 20. Alam ba? Yan, kanang ilongos na, tingatan sa takong wilayah niya. Kasi taga-British yan, may batasan ako. Kung servisyo mo, gambang ilang kasing-kasing sa mga armasin.
Before the sun rises, Lolo Paeng and his grandson are already at the terminal in BAYBAY for a bus to Maasin as today's destination. They are already familiar to bus drivers and fare collectors and are being showed with empathy by letting them pay half the price of the regular fare or even free if the collector would like to. And after the long hours of travel, they would take a rest first before starting a typical day. Then they would go to the convent of Maasin, where Lolo Paeng's deceased cousin had been a priest. There, he and his grandson are given free breakfast before they're off to their usual routine. His grandson guides him to the familiar places that they had been wandering for years. Streets, houses, and even local government units, where donations are always given.
Nung nakahatag ako piso dahil mga may harag 5, may 20 piso, di ba? Kapag daghan ang dili mo sita, nung gano'n mo sita.
Yet, there are times that there are people who don't leave.
mga badyaw dia dagang kayo. Nya, pangayon na to, mayo, mamay na ba na. Bisa, di pwede duga kasag niya magbuka. Ako kung babae pa ng net, ma'am pareho lang italang sa sitwasyon, tarawa ba? Ay, sorry nung hindi man ay kabadyaw. Alam ba yun siya na? Oo. Ma'am di ko badyaw, ma'am nangayo lang. Disin pareho rin nangayo.
A piece of bread, a bottle of refilled water, and a bag of palamig is enough for lunch. At the age of 70, Lolo Paeng's health is not really good. He even collapsed and lost his consciousness many times. Despite those, he will continue begging for alms from people.
Maluoy ko nila tatay ug nanay. Kay si tatay namin kamot para namo.
Nila pa nga, paway na mo oy, daghang tayo mga kaila, paway na mo pangayo oy. Ayaw lang, usa kay buhi pa man.
The only thing that could hinder Lolo Paeng from begging is the bad weather. Not for him, but for his grandson's sake. After a day's work, Lolo Paeng together with his grandson will exchange the coins into bills. They'll be going home, their time and effort paid off with cash and donations. As they return to Baybay, they will buy what they need and finally ride off home. Upon arriving, they are welcomed cheerfully by his granddaughter to help them out. Lolo Paeng would then rest and chat with his grandchildren and Lola Eleonor, while his daughter-in-law prepares their dinner. After eating, Lolo Paeng would be sitting with his grandchildren watching TV, and knowing he made the day providing the needs of his family is enough. Lolo Paeng chose to face life without seeing how big the smiles of his grandchildren are, how beautiful his wife is, or how fast the world changes. But the way he pictured them is maybe beyond our imagination. He is a father, a grandfather, and a husband, all a man would ever want in the world. The day ends and they would all go to sleep, dreaming for a better tomorrow lit up by whom they consider as their light in the dark, Lolo Paeng.
Say, oh, we're about to explode. Carry a word.